Hello and welcome to Queerful. My name is Benjamin Rose, and today's guest is Cat and the Hurricane, so stick around. Welcome to this first ever episode of Queerful. I am so excited. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it so much. I'm really excited about this podcast and about this series. And this first conversation is just really fun, was really fun for me to record and take part in. So I hope that you will enjoy the conversation that is about to ensue. First, a little bit about the premise. Queerful is an exploration of the many ways that LGBTQ plus folks of all stripes are creating social change, challenging power structures, inverting binaries, and thriving in a heteropatriarchal world. Today's guest is Cat and the Hurricane, which is a genre and gender-bending band from Madison, Wisconsin. They deliver a unique blend of synth-pop and haunting indie rock, which has been dubbed as sad lesbian music. Their most recent project, Libra, was released in February of 2020. Now, this episode and this interview is a little bit different because, full disclosure, I am also part of the project Cat and the Hurricane. It is a three-piece. As of now, it is myself and my dear friends Kat and Alex, and together we make music as Cat and the Hurricane here in our hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. So for this first episode, I really wanted to do something that was close to home, and so I asked Kat and Alex to sit down with me and talk about how the band came to be, what it means to make music as queer musicians, and what that represents for us. And also just to talk a little bit about our favorite moments, some of our favorite venues and shows that we've played. We talk a lot about playing as musicians here in the scene in Madison, Wisconsin. So you'll hear that referenced a lot. Yeah, so this episode is really close to home, and we really have some fun moments and dig into who Cat and the Hurricane is. This episode is also a little bit different because we all do live in Madison and we do practice together and are doing some writing and recording. And really, Kat and Alex are the only people that I've really hung out with outside of my apartment during this pandemic. And so I did want to mention that all the rest of the interviews will be conducted sort of remotely, but in this episode we were able to sit down in person just because they are my close circle of people that I have been around. We are still in a pandemic, and I do encourage you to continue limiting your contact with folks as much as you can, if it is possible, and to wear a mask when you do go out, just to be safe and to keep each other safe, because this is still an ongoing problem, particularly as school is starting and numbers are potentially going to get worse again. So just wanted to make that note that, COVID-19 is still very real, and that we, as Cat and the Hurricane, are still very concerned about it and want people to stay safe and to do everything that you can to keep each other safe. That said, let's just jump right into the conversation. This interview where I'm both the interviewer and the interviewee in some senses, but I want you to hear from my friends Kat and Alex, so let's jump into this conversation. All right, hello. I am here with Kat and Alex of Cat and the Hurricane, of which I am also a 1/3 of Cat and the Hurricane. So this is kind of a different episode than normal because I probably have more familiarity with the subject matter than I usually would. So we're going to kind of use this as a way to dive into the history of sort of the band and talk about our music. So why don't y'all introduce yourselves? Kat, let's hear, who are you? Tell me about yourself.
Well, as you know, as forementioned, my name is Kat. I use she, they, them pronouns, and I play guitar and sing in the band Cat and the Hurricane.
And I'm Alex. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I play drums and other percussion-y things, including some drum pad stuff in Cat and the Hurricane.
Cool. Well, thank you for sitting down we're actually able to do this in person because most of my interviews are going to be over Skype or whatnot, but we're actually all in Madison, Wisconsin, where we all live and practice together anyway. So, we can actually do this in person, which is weird for these ongoing pandemic times. So I want to talk a little bit about the background of Cat and the Hurricane for those that don't know who we are. But first, individually, how did you get into music, and how and why are you doing music today?
All right. Well, I decided to pick up the guitar seriously at age 17 when I bought my first guitar. Yay. A couple years later, I met up with a good friend that I made from high school named Candace Griffin, who is my best friend in the whole world.
We love Candace.
We love Candace. And invited me over one day to what was called a song share at her friend's place. That song share, after months of that, became a band. We cut 2 albums, and after that, it dispersed into Cat and the Hurricane, and here we are now. So that's the short version of why and how. And what was the other part of your question?
Yeah, that was like the how and the why, like how you got into music. So you picked up a guitar when you were 17, and you were just like, were you just like, I just want to mess around, or was there like, you're like, I feel like this is a hidden piece of me that I'm feeling for the first time?
Well, when I was easily like in 3rd or 4th grade, my dad burnt me some CDs and introduced me to some artists, and one of the albums that he gave me was Ram by Paul McCartney. So I listened to that every single night before going to bed, and I started burning CDs and getting excited to go to school in the morning and listen to it on the bus, and at night falling asleep. Like, I would fall asleep to my music on my Walkman. And I would just imagine myself performing each and every song. I would like sometimes physically like act out how I would act on stage, and I found myself performing for nobody else except for my ceiling above me.
Yeah.
And it's what I daydreamed and imagined night after night, and I guess I've always been a performer in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, what about you?
Yeah, totally. I grew up in a musical family, actually. My dad is a professional drummer, had like some endorsements with some drum companies and things like that level of serious. And so I grew up with a, parent who was constantly gigging all the time. And I also, like, just from as long as I can remember, I've also been drumming. It's just something that thankfully genetically was passed down to me, right? And that I just had like this really, I don't know, it was just something that was just a part of me ever since I was born. And I remember having like a baby mini tiny drum kit when I was a kid that my parents gave me, and I stopped. Well, actually no, like I never started like seriously like drumming. I think it's because I was like really intimidated by, well, one, my dad's like a professional, is really good at what he does. 2,
shout out to John Nelson.
Hey, the best. So, another thing is just that I'm an anxious person, and drumming is loud. Like you can't drum. You can, it's possible, but I can't drum the way I want to drum quietly.
Yeah.
And so like messing up, which happens when you're learning, it's part of the process, but I was just so afraid of it because it just sounds so bad and obvious, right? So I got more into guitar. When I was younger, I got a guitar for my 8th birthday, and I played all the time, all through high school, all through college. I actually was pursuing music, playing in a cover band. I was way too busy to do anything seriously in like high school and college. I was just like class and work all the time. But I got to a point in college toward like my grad school years where I like was like, I actually want to be in a band because I have time now. And so I just never found the right people. So I was in a cover band that was really fun, played guitar and sang, and I also just like was writing music on my own, but never really like had anything solid. I think I'm just the kind of person that I didn't know it at the time, but I need like to be in community with people to make music. So
Yeah.
finding my groove there really, really helped. But I didn't do that until I got invited to be a part of Cat in the Hurricane.
I've heard of them.
I've heard of them. Yeah. So you didn't really play like drums with a band before, like you?
No, not really. I was in band in high school and played percussion, but that was like part-time,
Right.
my senior year only. It was weird. And that was nerve-wracking. So this is the first time I've ever played with people in a project that is actually happening, and
Right.
not just like we're gonna make a band, right? You know?
More than the one time on the back porch where you're like, yeah, this will be a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this is happening now.
So how would you compare the experience of being on stage and performing, playing guitar and singing versus like drumming? Is it like a similar experience or is it different?
I think the pressure to perform and to perform well it feels very different. I think that and I think too, like when you're singing, you have to be able to hear yourself. You don't have any such problems with the drums. That's non-existent. And I think too, like my singing isn't like my strongest suit, mostly just because I haven't had a lot of like time to like do it and like devote to it in like an I'm doing this kind of way. But the guitar is super fun. It's really, really fun. It's easy to mask when you mess up sometimes, but not all the time. I think it's just different. Yeah, I like drumming a lot more though. You're the energy in some ways. You're part of the rhythm section, so it's fun.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's weird. I feel like I'm a mixture of both of those things. Like I grew up in a musical family, but I feel like it wasn't until like you said, it wasn't until I like had free time that I could really like hope to do anything with it. And also like I think it was more the love of performing than the love of the music itself. Although it's like those things are intertwined, but like you said, Kat, like there's singing in the shower, but then there's like envisioning in your head like what you would do if you were on stage and what motions you would make. And I think that's stage presence, and that's like a thing that you can't teach, and I think that is something that you have in abundance. But I think that's different than just like, oh, I want to like sing and make music, because that's a lot of teenagers feel that way, which is great because music is good for everyone. But there's like that, and then there's the I want to perform. So you mentioned kind of out of that song share and like playing with those group of people, eventually Cat in the Hurricane came out of that. And I know that people ask this all the time, but how did you come up with the project? Why is it called Cat in the Hurricane? Why did you create this like project at the very beginning, however many years ago that was?
So during my song share days, when we created the band which was called Pancake Riot from good old Janesville, Wisconsin, after we kind of headed towards the end of what Pancake Riot was, because people were, changing jobs, they were moving, new relationships. It got old after a bit for some people, and but for the people that wanted to still pursue music in a different way, they branched off into either something that already existed, like my friend Robbie, who is the sole person in Elmer and the Ceramic Trees. So shout out to Robbie, because like he's
doing it all.
He's doing it all himself, which is so impressive. And then like Candace was always doing music, and a few other people, and I didn't have anything because that Pancake Riot was my first thing. So like I wanted to hold on to it as best I could, and I just came to a point where it boiled down to literally just Candace and I. So at that point, we never really did the duo thing, but like the potential was always there, and that's why Candace, she's incorporated into as much as what we do as possible, because like honorary member of Cat in the Hurricane at any time, for sure. So all of my friends were, spinning off and doing their own thing. So I was like, okay, well, I should do something. I didn't know what. And I had an idea. October 2015, I sat down to open up Facebook and create a Facebook page just from scratch. I uploaded some art that I made, and I hadn't even had music prepped yet to put onto like a Bandcamp page or anything, but I got people talking about it. I invited all my closest friends that I knew that were going to like it right away. And well, looking back from that moment to now, like, it's just, we've come so far.
Yeah.
But that's why everybody started doing music around me. And I said, I need my own identity. Like, for two-ish years, we collaborated with each other and like shared each other's music. So this was my project. Like, this was going to be me, myself, and I, which is funny because Pancake Riot's first album was called Yours, Mine, and Ours. So this time, yeah, I was ready to put stuff out on my own. And now I have Miles Away that was recorded by my friend Daniel at the Outpost in Janesville. And yeah, it's just, in my opinion, like, iconic album for like just the beginning of something.
Yeah.
And now here we are, second album in, and potentially looking at much more to come. So yeah. It's crazy.
That's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
So next month is going to be 5 years.
Yeah. So Miles Away was released in December of 2017.
Yes.
But those songs had already existed for a little while.
Some of them had. I had been working on it kind of stretched from a point in my life when I started Songshare, and then by the time it ended, I had like a little bit, like a collection of things that I had written for specifically Pancake Riot. But then, so with Miles Away, I wrote every single one of those songs, like one song a day for like an entire week. And it just came to me. I just was trying out these new chord progressions. They're all pretty straightforward, easy, but in that I was able to pump out an album right there. So I held on to those songs until I was able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then eventually, made some time with my friend Dan, and we spent hours in his basement recording this album, and it's just baby me, like little tiny baby cat. It's just a trip to go back and listen to and hear how my voice has evolved after 5 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So were you playing shows at all, like 2016?
Not really. I wasn't. In 2016 is, that was the year that I was kind of doing Cat in the Hurricane stuff, but didn't really know where to go with it until I met some friends in this band, in which I moved to Sun Prairie, and then that branched off into a whole other like chapter of my life that, I mean, ended me up back in Madison at some point. Left, tried that out, and then had to come back to Madison, and I think it's really cooking here. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of like the baby origins of Cat in the Hurricane, because we met like the end of 2017. I think I had just moved back to Wisconsin in May of 2017 after I finished my undergrad, and we met at an open mic by
fall, I feel.
Yeah, I think
because starting to get cold.
Yeah, I remember like that summer I was like itching to do music. I had been doing music a lot my senior year, and I was like, I really want to keep doing music. So I was like, oh, there's this open mic that I, ironically enough, had gone to in high school like a couple of times. I don't know that we ever ran into each other. I don't think we would have remembered.
No, we didn't.
But
imagine my shock.
It would be
living in Janesville all this time and like walking in one day and there's Ben out of nowhere. I'm like, holy crap, another gay kid. Are you kidding me? I was so excited. And that's why I had to say hello after you got done with your set.
Yeah, and we just like connected. I don't remember. We had both played at the open mic, and so we
kept missing each other.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like in 2012 when I was still in high school. I remember going to that coffee shop, but you wouldn't have recognized me as the gay kid then because I was playing like really, really bad like worship music. So, or like a really bad 8-minute version of Hallelujah because so
wow, I gotta hear that.
Please.
I can't even replicate it. I have some demos, but
of course you do. No,
so then fast forward through those very terrible years. yeah, so then we met and you had an album release party for Miles Away. I remember that. And then Kat posted on Facebook, you were like, I want to do this for real. Like you had just released the album and you're like looking for drummer and keyboard player or something. Yeah.
Bassist or keyboarder.
Yeah.
I need a keyboarder.
You really do.
And a synther, please. A keytar would suffice.
But yeah, I remember you posting that in like the Janesville musicians group, which
Jam.
was probably like
Jam.
100 people. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But and I saw it and I was like, also like, I really want to do music, but I was like, I don't know if I want to commit to something. I was still thinking about if I was going to go to grad school at the time.
You didn't message me first.
I didn't message you first. I was like, no, it's fine. And then you messaged me and you're like, so. I was like, yeah, I already read the post.
Yeah.
Literally.
What? I should have called you up and be like, why did you message me?
That's like that was my life on Tinder too, where they're like, tell me about yourself. I'm like, I've already memorized your bio. I just haven't messaged you.
That's hilarious. I was about to bring it back to dating. Like, y'all are so cute, just like dancing around each other. My goodness. Too shy.
We knew we wanted to be friends.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we ended up here one way or the other.
You're right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so then that was 2018 and we played together ever since then.
Yeah, February of 2018 and it was JPAC. Yeah.
Yeah, so we played that show and then we played like coffee shops and
The Looking Glass.
Yeah, we played bars in Janesville.
The Lark.
And so this was in Janesville, Wisconsin, and eventually we both made it up to Madison, which is where we call home now. But yeah, it was a lot of just playing shows wherever we could, and
exactly. That's
and like
what you gotta do. Writing
and preparing for what we knew would come, manifesting what we knew would come, and it did eventually.
Yeah.
This is just another stepping stone.
Yeah, and then Alex showed up. So who wants to tell? Well, I want to hear your side of the story, Alex.
Me?
So, yeah. What was the first time you ever heard the words "Cat in the Hurricane"?
Wow. All right. So it would have been, 2019. Probably like spring 2019. Yeah. Okay. So early 2019, one of my best friends in the entire world who,
shout out to Lauren.
So yeah, one of my best friends in the entire world who now lives in Portland, used to live here in Madison for the longest time, was my very first friend when I moved here. And she actually was getting a little cutesy with someone, and I didn't find out about it for a little bit. So I knew that she was getting kind of cutesy with someone. I didn't quite know who that person was, and after a couple months, found out that having ADHD, we forget about people for a little bit, or stuff was going on. I don't remember, but found out about this person again, and she was like, hey, you know Kat, right? And I'm like, Kat, what? What? That person I was talking to a while ago. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're actually in a band. You would probably like them. They're called Cat in the Hurricane. And I feel like I had heard that name like a couple times in like spring 2019, but it wasn't until y'all went all the way out to Milwaukee to play the Cactus Club with Partner and Telethon, that I even got to like see y'all's music. I think I had probably like looked up what was on Bandcamp or Spotify before, but I knew that what y'all were playing now was different than Miles Away, which was what was out there online. And I was really blown away. So I saw y'all at Cactus Club and Summerfest. I don't remember which one was first, but maybe it was Cactus Club.
Cactus Club.
Yeah, and I was really excited, and I wasn't about to be like, can I crash your band? I notice you don't have a drummer, but I really wanted to.
I wish you had, and I forever wish you had, because I wanted you to play with us with
yeah,
Partner so bad.
Yeah, I know that now. And the thing is too, like I didn't have a drum set like until I joined Cat in the Hurricane. I had though an electronic drum kit that I had borrowed from a very dear friend of ours, Josh. who lives up north a little bit.
Shout out to Josh Rant.
Hey! So I bought my own e-kit as well after trying his out for a bit. And so I think at some point we ended up having a conversation of like, hey, I don't remember if it was, do you, Alex, want to play for us? Or if it was me being like, can I play in your band? But at some point we had that conversation and I was invited.
Yeah. Lauren brought me over and it's like, all right, it's time.
Oh yeah,
Let's
that's
discuss.
right. Because it's like, obviously we're going to be best friends. Like,
Obviously.
And now we live together. So, it was just all destined. It was all in the stars. But yeah, that's kind of both the story of like how I came to hear about Cat and the Hurricane for the first time and a little bit of like how I joined. But I feel like the rest is history, really.
Yeah, I remember during that time, like, as the bystander hearing like Kat be like, so Lauren has this friend and they're queer and they play the drums, and so because we'd been talking for a long time about how we wanted, you know, a bassist and a drummer just like to build up the project. I mean, that was like from day one, like Kat wanted to turn this into a band project, and was like, and we'd played with people, we'd had different drummers and bassists and stuff like join us at different gigs, but like none of them were like long-term situations, even though some of them are dear friends like Ryan, who helped us with recording. So thank you, Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan Thomas.
So talented.
But yeah, so nothing like had stuck, and so like we were sort of like scoping out very actively, which I don't think Alex knew. Like when you saw us, very very actively like looking for more people and being like, I'm gonna get this person to play drums for us. I'm gonna get this person to play drums for us. And I was like, okay. And Alex we're like all like emitting this like Tinder energy. We're just like waiting for the other person to message first.
Truly, God.
Yep. We're just consent-oriented creatures, I guess.
Yeah.
You just wait for
Literally
for the right moment.
Yeah.
But then you know that it
Just
like
be shy.
everyone was happy about it in the end, you know? And so it all worked out. So changing gears a little bit. So talking about like the substance, we describe ourselves on our website as sad lesbian music. We get lots of questions about either questions or just like grunts of affirmation.
Truly.
It's like, it's you either know or you don't. But like taking that on a serious note, like, is there any point, especially for Kat, where you consciously like set out to say like, this is like a queer project or like queer music? Was that ever like a conscious thing, or is it just sort of a byproduct of like being in the world as a queer person?
So I didn't start coming out until 2015. So it didn't start that way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started coming into my queerness, and like Madison was a huge factor in that, because it was a place that I could exist and feel safe and accepted and myself. So I feel like I've definitely found my voice in my queerness, because my queerness is liberation from what I was, taught that I was supposed to be before. So really, truly just being confined to a little box that people put me in. Had to move out of Janesville to get out of that box. And then it wasn't until Madison that I really just took a hold of it, and like now I'm owning it, and I want other people to learn how to own their queerness too. And like I just want people to feel comfortable being who they want to be, because that wasn't always available to me growing up, and I'm sure that goes without saying for the two of you as well, that we weren't allowed to do or be. So now that we're allowed to do and be who we want in, the safe seemingly safe Madison, like I am not scared to state my queerness. I'm not scared to be visibly gay anymore. I mean, I am and I'm not.
Right.
Like as of late, like absolutely finally owning that portion of my soul, and because I want to do that, it puts me in great danger, and all of my friends who want to just do the same in great danger. So it's very It's bittersweet.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it didn't start out as a queer project, but now I think a lot of people do see Cat in the Hurricane as sort of this like people listen to it because they enjoy the music, right? And people come to the show because they like the music. But there is something that's like also a piece of like being sort of a mouthpiece, or sort of like not a mouth, that's presumptuous, but like being some sort of like representation of queerness on the stage. So I just like, yeah, like what does that mean to you, and like why is that important?
I think that when I was growing up, I always loved music. Like, first and foremost, my favorite thing. At some point, actually, I'll back up. I feel like I always used to listen to, like I grew up, I was like a young tween in like 2006, 2008, when, emo and pop punk was like the emo revival, right? Pop punk was like huge, and
said Twilight.
Oh yeah, and Twilight. Honestly, that soundtrack was great.
High School Musical.
True.
It is a really good soundtrack. And K-Stew. Ha! Okay, so I feel like there was a point when I was in high school where I started to notice, one, I was listening to a lot of men when I was listening to music. Two, I was listening to a lot of straight men. And it took me a lot longer to like recognize whiteness, because I grew up in a predominantly white area, much like Madison, where I live now. But that was also at play as well. I started listening to queer artists when I was in high school and fell in love. Like, I saw myself in them. I heard my stories in them. I heard love songs about queer relationships for the first time. I, like, in some ways knew that, like, yeah, heartbreak is inevitable, but, like, queer heartbreak, like, that means that there was queer love, right? So that's phenomenal. That's, like, groundbreaking. That, like, really, and ever since, I've really only listened to, like, women and femme and trans, like, musicians, like, basically almost exclusively. And I feel like I could expand my repertoire quite a bit, but, like, that's like my flavor of music. But I think that we can be those people, those musicians, those artists, for other young queer people, for even queer people our age or older, right, who have yet to see themselves or their stories or aspects of their life represented in another human being. And I think to make that connection across any medium is really powerful. But I think music, just because, like, we're individuals, but we can, like, make touch points through our many different music, like, songs, all the different music that we do, through just, like, social media and interacting as human beings, but also as artists. Like, there are so many ways that we can, like, do that for other people. And so that's a huge drive for me. But I think also it's just, like, who are you to tell me that I can't, be queer and trans and a musician and, like, a vital part of the Madison music scene? Not to toot our own horn or anything, but, like, who are you to say that we can't be the Madison band? Who are you to say that we can't be, like widely loved or appreciated, or, like, and I think that is a dream of all musicians, maybe most musicians. But I think too, it's like when you add that layer of, like, the oppression that we've faced, and, like, knowing that there's a lot of areas that we're super privileged in as well. Like, being able to be ourselves, create pathways for other people, to open up the stage, to break down the barriers, to be the people to do that for other people is just amazing. Like, it's an honor and a privilege. And again, we're very lucky to be able to do that. We're very, very lucky in so many ways. But yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
It wasn't until, Ben, you and I played Rock County's first ever Pride Fest that it really hit me that representation matters, because what happened that day, I guess I just didn't expect it. But what happened was we had a bunch of little gabies coming out to probably their first Pride ever in Rock County, which, by the way, it took way too long to get that set up.
Yeah.
I could go into a whole thing on that. I'm sure you could too, Ben. But what I'm saying is, these are a group of kids that probably never felt comfortable going to a middle school dance or a high school dance, and felt comfortable or was able to go and be themselves, because that's just so cookie cutter of our culture, like prom and all of this. It's got to be prim and proper. Like there's no space for queer kids to be safe with one another. So watching them like hang out with each other and sing and dance to My Chemical Romance and Queen, it literally made me feel a sense of pride, because like they've been looking for a safe place, and if kids like that can find a safe space in my music, then that's what I want to be doing. Like, you remember that we had a group picture taken with these kids. Half of them, they were in tears by the end of our set, and it's like they were finally like sitting down and listening to queer artists sing about queer love, queer scenarios, queer everything. Queer possibilities.
And not just queer artists, but queer artists from Janesville, Wisconsin, or from Clinton, Wisconsin.
Right? Like where's that? Exactly.
Right. Like, it's like we grew up going to the same grocery store as them and going to the same schools as them. You know, it's like we're from this same part of the Midwest. And like, sure, there is like a universality in queerness in some ways, but to like see that in front of your face, it's like they can say, oh, you really do get it because you've gone to the same places, like you live in the same space. Yeah, that day for me too was just like something clicked where I realized like how like I don't know the actual first story of like how we introduced ourselves as sad lesbian music. Like, it's mythology at this point, but yeah, because it really is just sort of like the three of us. When we hear that, we think of like I guess a genre of music, or maybe a mission of music. I don't know. Like, there's something that just comes to mind when you hear sad lesbian music, and we started using it for ourselves.
It's mostly a joke at first.
Yeah. Well,
now it's become a branding. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, like, no one was using that hashtag, so we're like, I guess that's our thing now, because swoop that up.
Like, you go to that Instagram handle, that tag, we're still like pretty much the only ones in there.
Yeah. I mean, we're like, we'll take claim of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want more people to discover that. So like. Yeah. So they can start tagging themselves as sad lesbian music, because like we can make a community out of it.
Yeah,
like it's totally. a running joke, but also a community.
Like we can get Tegan and Sarah to come to our birthday party out of it.
We should absolutely ask them to do that. I would be honored to like cover a song of theirs for them.
Yeah,
that'd be so great. But that's my favorite thing about sad lesbian music is when people get it.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Because it's like, oh yeah, sad lesbian music. You mean like X, Y, and Z band. Like, exactly. Thank you.
And then there's others that are just like,
Well, and that's what happened, I think, with that Pride. So that was 2018, the summer of 2018, it was in Beloit, Wisconsin, right on the border above Illinois. And it was the first time they had done like a Pride Fest in the county. And we had been introducing ourselves with that like joke for a few months, I think. I don't know when the first time we did, but we would say, who's ready for some sad lesbian music? Like, you would say that as we would like start our set, and sometimes people would like chuckle a little bit. Sometimes people would just outright be like, what's that?
Yeah.
But that
looking for a reaction.
And some dude in the back was like, what?
Yeah. But that was the first time we weren't expecting it. I just remember like we had set up, we had sound checked, and they're like, okay, you're up next. We go to play our first song, and Kat's like, who's ready for some sad lesbian music? And you just see this like crowd of teenagers, their heads just turn. They ran and they sat right in front of us, and they're just like, me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was like we called the kids in from recess or something. It was
That's
so
amazing.
adorable.
And I wasn't expecting it.
No. I had no clue.
That's so funny, because when I went to play Rock County Pride with y'all, this would have been last summer. So what was it? The third or second?
The second, yeah.
The second? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the same kind of vibe. Like, that didn't happen, but that was the same kind of vibe that I got.
And there were more people this year, which was so excellent to see.
It was an awesome day. Like, I loved that crowd. The show, my kit was sliding around a little bit. It wasn't my best, but wow, that was such good energy.
Speaking of Pride Fest, that was one of my next questions, was what are some of your proudest or favorite moments? I think proudest, like what are some of your proudest moments as a musician, as being part of this band in the past, 1/3/5 years for each of us? Like, what's one of your some of your favorite moments?
I'll go first. easily our High Noon Saloon premiere. That was a very proud moment. It's burned into my memory, not only because we have like a music video based around it, but like burned into my memory forever that we were given the opportunity and someone took a chance on us, and that we got to meet some really cool dudes in the other band, and all of our friends and fam came out to celebrate such a just amazing night. I really truly couldn't be happier with how it turned out.
That was probably one of our tightest sets up until that point.
Yeah.
And one of
Like,
our
it was
biggest
so good.
show, the High Noon Saloon is a venue in Madison. I don't know the actual capacity, like off the top of my head, but it's probably one of the bigger venues that we've played bigger rooms, but one of the like number of heads in the room, one of the biggest shows that we've played, and it went really well.
Shout out to the High Noon Saloon.
The best. And God, like my dream was like when I moved to Madison, whenever I went to a show at High Noon, I would just like, you know, I'm up at the front because that's where I stand and you can like touch the wood of the floor of the stage, right? And I would always be like, I'm going to play on this someday. I'm going to literally be able to walk on this with my feet. Like, wow. And we didn't get to do that just once. We got to do it 2 or 3 times now.
A handful of times,
Yeah.
thanks to the open mic.
I was going to say, because my other most proudest, it's a tie between the tour, the High Noon show, and the another show we played at the High Noon, which wasn't really a show. It was a kind of like an audition or something. I don't know. What would y'all consider
It's
that?
like a competition. It was
Sure.
sort of a competition.
Yeah, it was a competition.
Are we talking
for-
about Battle of the Bands?
Yeah, for Battle
Yeah,
of
that
the
was
Bands.
definitely a competition.
Yeah, so we played 3 songs for the Battle of the Bands competition for the Madison Area Music Association.
Shout out to the mamas.
The Mamas. And we competed against a lot of very talented artists. But I remember getting on that stage and climbing up behind that drum set that was a gorgeous drum set, was not mine, and I'm really not great at playing different drum sets on the spot, but I was so proud of us because that was the tightest set. We basically choreographed the whole thing. Like, and we got major points for doing so.
Oh, the judges loved you.
The judges did. I was so surprised.
They're like, you
and
have the
proud.
best drummer. And we're like, we know.
Say immaculate, was that the word that they used?
Something like that, yeah.
Shush.
Yeah.
I think it was like exceptional. Or
Exceptional,
something. I
yeah.
don't know. Shut up. Like I
No, say more.
but the thing is, I had only been drumming for 7-8 months at that point.
Yeah.
Remember? Like for real. Like I've been drumming my entire life, but not on a kit. A kit is so different.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge proud moment
And
for
you
me
hear that
big
big old monitor right in your ear. You
it
could
was
hear
perfect.
everything.
It was perfect. Y'all sounded amazing. It was crisp, crystal clear. Like you two both just killed it. Like non-violently killed it. And yeah, I could just go on about the 3 songs that we played. It was just perfect. And Libra, I think we made it slightly faster. We took out it was a verse or a chorus, and that was the first time I think we had performed it that way because we needed to.
time crunch.
It was we could only play for like
We had like
6,
15
9
minutes.
15 minutes.
And
yeah.
our songs are long.
we were up on that stage and done with our set like at 14 minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah,
Like,
literally.
right at the 15-minute mark. So we got points for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I spilled
anyway,
water on myself to get to get off the stage. I spilled water all over myself and my guitar. I was like, here. I was like throwing stuff at people, like go.
Oh yeah, because you had to get up and down.
It was
really
so urgent
quickly,
for no
too.
reason.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the best. Anytime I could play at the High Noon, like it's just a dream. It's just a dream.
We'll be back.
They had better make it through this pandemic. Oh, they're my favorite venue.
Yep.
The best.
The best.
It's one of those venues, like, for those that don't know, we have, like, the big touring venues in Madison where, like, the Lizzos and the Coldplays would play, like, the really big venues. And then High Noon is, like, underneath that where you wouldn't get, like, the most expensive touring bands, but it's still big enough to fit a decent crowd. They still get touring bands there, but local bands also get to play there. They have, like, a balcony. They have 2 bars, so it's sort of like a mid-sized venue, but it's just like it's that right size where you can still have an intimate show, but you can like see bands that you really love, and it's one of the favorite venues.
Feels
in
like
town.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen all of my favorite like
Same.
musicians there, like Mitski, Pedal,
Phoebe Bridgers.
yeah.
Noah Gunderson.
Michigander.
Oh, that was a good
Michigander.
show.
Bad Hats.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Again
6
and
or
again
7
and again.
times. Liza Ann.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I missed that one, and I'm forever going to cry about
She
it.
comes here often. I've seen her a couple times.
Well, Liza Ann, please come back.
Waxahachie.
Tag her.
I met Allison Crutchfield there.
Ugh.
She's a
Pomplamoose.
sweetie.
Daniel ate the sandwich. Dead horses. I could go on.
I have like a whole list somewhere. I
Boy and Bear.
make too many Excel spreadsheets.
Hannah Georges.
No way. You saw Hannah Georges?
Yes, I did.
I love Hannah Georges.
I do too.
Anyway, High Noon Saloon is the best.
Yes, they booked the best. And thank you for booking us.
Yeah, I can't wait until we can play shows again. Until then, we will keep ourselves busy with writing and other things. But yeah, so that's talked a little bit about the history, talked a little bit about what being queer means as a non-sentient entity like a band.
Representation.
I mean sentient as people, but
As 3 people in one. Yeah, what do you call that?
that we call that Trinitarian theology in the Christian world. It's 3
yes.
in 1.
We are 3 in 1.
Oh, boy.
Is that sacrilege? I don't know.
Say more if you want.
No, I will. We're already have been talking for a while. I could go off on that.
The dad, the boy, and the holy queer.
Alex.
So, kind of to wrap up, my last question, and you don't need to give away any specifics or anything, but what are your goals or dreams for the future of Cat and the Hurricane, especially once we can go outside?
Finishing recording and mixing and mastering, and then eventually releasing our next slew of songs. And
Because we've been writing.
yeah, we've been writing. And also continuing to write our next slew of songs thereafter.
Yeah, that was my answer, because we've gone through this progression of Miles Away, which sort of was birthed like all at once by Kat, and then sort of was like playing those songs for a while, and then the Libra songs, the album re-released 6-ish months ago, a little more than 6 months ago. That batch of songs was also together for quite a while, and the songs that we're working on recording next, we've been already playing live for a while, and so this new batch of songs that we're writing is kind of the first time that all 3 of us have been in the room to write stuff, so it's sort of like, it's fun, like doing the collaboration and like building it from the ground up. It's fun to like collaborate.
I want to book the Sylvie.
God, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all.
That's the big venue.
That's all I want.
I would be very happy booking High Noon at least once. In the next however long it takes before we get to the part where things get back to normal. But
then we'll get to the Sylvie.
I know. I think the Sylvie would be awesome. I just also want to play High Noon. I would also, like, I know that it's going to be a while before this happens, but I think a big goal would definitely be to go on a short tour, a long tour. It doesn't really matter to me. Just, like, playing shows back to back every day for a couple days would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right, dream people to tour with, go.
Ooh.
Wow.
I want to tour with Future Teens, because I feel like that's like I could say and would say like Phoebe Bridgers, which is also an answer. But like in a more realistic world, like Future Teens, they're from the East Coast, and I just love their sound, and I feel like their vibe is similar to our vibe, the kinds of people that go to their shows. And they opened for Pronoun on the last tour that they went on together, which is another answer.
Well, you stole my answer.
mine.
Oh, okay. Well,
That tour specifically, then. if y'all go back and you need another opener.
yep.
All right.
So that was one of my answers. I want to tour with Line, the band.
Yeah.
Our friends Line. And yeah, Pronoun.
I'm gonna have to go with Bad Hats would be really fun. But like dream, probably now. I would say now. But like, hold on, not like yes, Brad and Casey. And also, I saw them back in 2017, I think. They played at Pygmalion, which is a annual festival in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. And they had a full, like, 4 or maybe it was 5-person band crew at the time. And they had been, like, playing shows with these other couple people. I think it was just 2 other people. For a while, I think I may have seen them all when Now came to the Barrymore Theater in Madison. Like a year or 2 ago, but specifically that crew looked so fun, and I would watch them play every night.
Also Paramore, Tegan and Sarah.
Oh, Tegan and Sarah, definitely.
Yeah, that's the dream, is like going on a tour, just a tour, like just playing in cities that I haven't been to. And I don't want it for the money or the fame. I just want to meet people and play music.
Just want to travel.
Yeah. Well, the last thing we can leave folks with, is there any last thoughts that you want to share, maybe particularly for anyone who's listening who is queer, maybe a gaybie who's picking up their guitar, or someone that you might see yourself in? What would you say to them?
Just do it. Don't be afraid of what other people are gonna think. I think that's the thing that I struggle with the most whenever I'm writing by myself. Just do it. Yeah, and if it's messy, that's fine. Like, most music is messy until it gets to a point where you feel like you have ownership over it. And yeah, you can do amazing things if you just do it.
Don't be a perfectionist. What you have to offer is good enough. If you spend too much time, you're gonna miss some stuff. So don't be a perfectionist. And personally, like, don't. Oh my gosh, there's so much I want to say, because there's so much I've learned this year, like just in the last couple months. Take as much time you need to reflect on anything and everything. Be open to the possibility that you're wrong sometimes, and make room for new possibilities, because not everything is what it seems.
I think another thing that I would offer too is just that your gut's right. Like,
Trust
it
your
carries so much information.
Yes.
Like you're picking up a guitar, or you're picking up like a pair of drumsticks, or like looking at that synth going like, I can make some tunes for a reason. And everyone's got to start somewhere too. Like, so follow your intuition, follow your gut, and definitely tap into it every once in a while, especially when you feel like I don't have anything to produce right now. Like, I don't know what to write about. Like, you got a story in there. You definitely do.
There's always something.
And you are perfect, and you are loved, and you are so good, and the world needs more of you.
Beautiful.
True that. Well, that is a good note to end on. Thank you both for sitting and talking the behind the scenes of Cat and the Hurricane.
Thanks, Bean.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That is Cat and the Hurricane. You got a history lesson. You got some great conversation about queerness and what it means to have representation. You got a lot of shout outs. So if you're looking for new music, like at the end there especially, you got a lot of shout outs of bands that the three of us listen to and draw inspiration from. So you can definitely go check those out. If you want to find out more about this episode or any of the episodes of Queerful and the things that were mentioned during the conversation, you can go to my website, which is mixbenjaminrose.com/podcast. And there I will be posting links to all of the episodes, as well as any relevant resources and links that were mentioned during the episode. You can find those all in one place. So go to mixbenjaminrose.com/podcast to find out more if your curiosity was sparked by anything that we talked about. You can find Cat in the Hurricane all over the internet just by searching Cat in the Hurricane. Go to catinthehurricane.com. You can get music and merch at catinthehurricane.bandcamp.com. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Cat in the Hurricane. Twitter is at CatTHurricane. So yeah, you can find Cat in the Hurricane all over the internet. There's music on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you stream or buy your music. You can also find me anywhere on the internet as Mix Benjamin Rose. That's MX Benjamin Rose. That's my website. That's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of those things. So I would love to get connected with you and become internet friends. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world for you to follow or subscribe to the show, or to leave a rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to, whether that's Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so on and so forth. Any of that helps more people find these conversations. New episodes of Queerful are available every other Monday, so I will be back in another 2 weeks with another conversation like this one. Until then, okay, love you, bye!